Okay, so the Ku Klux Klan. Founded in 1865, the Ku Klux Klan extended into almost every southern state by 1870 and became a vehicle for white Southern resistance to the Republican Party's Reconstruction-era policies aimed at establishing political and economic equality for Black Americans. Its members waged an underground campaign of intimidation and violence directed at white and Black Republican leaders. Though Congress passed legislation um, passed legislation designed to curb Klan terrorism, the organization saw its primary goal, the reestablishment of white supremacy, fulfilled through Democratic victories in state legislatures across the South in the 1870s. After a period of decline, the white Protestant nativists groups revived the Klan in the early 20th century, burning crosses and staging rallies, parades, and marches denouncing immigrants, Catholics, Jews, African Americans, and organized labor. The civil rights movement of the 1960s also saw a surge of Ku Klux Klan activity, including bombings of Black schools and churches and violence against Black and white activists in the South. Founding of the Ku Klux Klan. A group including many former Confederate veterans founded the first branch of the Ku Klux Klan as a social club in Pulaski, Tennessee in 1865. The first two words of the organization's name supposedly derive from the Greek word kaiklos, meaning circle. In the summer of 1867, local branches of the Klan met in a general organizing convention and established what they called an invisible empire of the South. Leading Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest was chosen as its first leader or Grand Wizard of the Klan. He presided over a hierarchy of Grand Dragons, Grand Titans, and Grand Cyclopses. Did you know at its peak in the 1920s, Klan membership exceeded 4 million people nationwide? The organization of the Ku Klux Klan coincided with the beginning of the second phase of post-Civil War Reconstruction, put into place by the more radical members of the Republican Party in Congress. After rejecting President Andrew Johnson's relatively lenient construction policies in place from 1865 to 1866, Congress passed the Reconstruction Act over the presidential veto. Under its provisions, the South was divided into 5 military districts, and each state was required to approve the 14th Amendment, which granted equal protection of the Constitution to former enslaved people and enacted universal male suffrage, or the right to vote. Ku Klux Klan violence in the South. From 1867 onward, African American participation in public life in the South became one of the most radical aspects of Reconstruction. As Black people won election to Southern state governments and even to the U.S. Congress. For its part, the Ku Klux Klan dedicated itself to an underground campaign of violence against Republican leaders and voters, both Black and white, in an effort to reverse the policies of radical Reconstruction and restore white supremacy in the South. They were joined in the struggle by similar organizations such as the Knights of the White Camellia, launched in Louisiana in 1867, and the White Brotherhood. At least 10% of Black legislatures elected during the 1867 to 1868 constitutional conventions became victims of violence during Reconstruction, including 7 who were killed. White Republicans derided as carpetbaggers and scalawags, and Black institutions such as schools and churches, symbols of Black autonomy, were also targets of the Klan's attack. By 1870, the Ku Klux Klan had branches in nearly every southern state. Even at its height, the Klan did not boast a well-organized structure or clear leadership. Local Klan members were often wearing masks and dressed in the organization's signature long white robes and hoods, usually carried out their attacks at night, acting on their own but in support of the common goals of defeating radical Reconstruction and restoring white supremacy in the South. Klan activity flourished, particularly in the regions of the South, where Black people were a minority or a small majority of the population, and was relatively limited in others. Among the most notorious zones of Klan activity was South Carolina, where in January of 1871, 500 masked men attacked the Union County Jail and lynched 8 Black prisoners. The Ku Klux Klan and the end of Reconstruction. The Democratic leaders would later attribute Ku Klux Klan violence to the poorer Southern white people. The organization's membership crossed class lines, from small farmers and laborers to planters, lawyers, merchants, physicians, doctors, and ministers. In the region where most Klan activity took place, local law enforcement officials either belonged to the Klan or declined to take action against it, and even those who accused Klansmen found it difficult to find witnesses willing to testify against them. Other leading white citizens in the South declined to speak out against the group's actions, giving them tacit approval. After 1870, Republican state governments in the South turned to Congress to help, resulting in the passage of 3 enforcement acts, the strongest of which was the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. For the first time, the Ku Klux Klan Act designated certain crimes committed by individuals as federal offenses, including conspiracies to deprive citizens of the right to hold office, serve on juries, and enjoy the equal protection of the law. The act authorized the president to suspend the writ of habeas corpus and arrested accused individuals without charge, and to send federal forces to suppress Klan violence. This expansion of federal authority, which Ulysses S. Grant promptly used in 1871 to crush Klan activity in South Carolina and other areas of the South, outraged Democrats and even alarmed many Republicans. From the early 1870s onward, white supremacy gradually reasserted its hold on the South as support for Reconstruction waned. By the end of 1876, the entire South was under Democratic control once again. Revival of the Ku Klux Klan. In 1915, white Protestant nativists organized a revival of the Ku Klux Klan near Atlanta, Georgia, inspired by their romantic view of the Old South, as well as Thomas Dixon's 1905 book, The Klansman, and D.W. Griffin's 1915 film, Birth of a Nation. This second generation of the Klan was not only anti-black, but also took a stand against Roman Catholics, Jews, foreigners, and organized labor. It was fueled by growing hostility to the surge in immigration that America experienced in the early 20th century, along with fears of communist revolution akin to the Bolshevik triumph in Russia in 1917. The organization took as its symbol a burning cross and held rallies and parades and marches around the country. At its peak in the 1920s, Klan membership exceeded 4 million people nationwide. The Great Depression in the 1930s depleted the Klan's membership ranks, and the organization temporarily disbanded in 1944. The civil rights movement in the 1960s saw a surge of local Klan activity across the South, including the bombings, beatings, and shootings of black and white activists. These actions, carried out in secret but apparently the work of local Klansmen, outraged the nation and helped win support of civil rights cause. In 1965, President Lyndon Johnson delivered a speech publicly condemning the Klan and announcing the arrest of 4 Klansmen in connection with the murder of a white female activist worker in Alabama. The case of the Klan-related violence became more isolated in the decades to come, though fragmented groups became aligned with neo-Nazi or later right-wing extremist organizations in the 1970s and onward. In the early 1990s, the Klan was estimated to have between 6,000 and 10,000 active members, mostly in the Deep South.